Hey there, friends. You're listening to episode 364 of Better Than Before Breast Cancer. I'm your host, Laura Lummer, and I am happy to be here with you today. I want to invite you to join me for 1 minute here in the beginning of this podcast to just stop what you're doing just for a sec. Just take a deep breath in and let it all out. I think that sometimes we need to take a break. And right now, this has been a big week. There's a lot of heaviness in the world. There's a lot going on. And when we are trying to take care of ourselves, we have to acknowledge that there are stressors in the world. And sometimes, and I'm just talking about general stressors that all of us could turn on the news right now and see. And you may have even more going on in your personal life. In fact, I'm sure you do. And I think so often we just try to push through. Now, there are times when things have to be taken care of, when we do have to get through things. But there are other times when we have to recognize that there's a moment to create some space and that you need to take those moments. You know, in our environment, in our country right now, there's a lot going on. But also this week, the news of the death of Shannon Doherty, I think, weighs heavily on this community and a lot of this community. And it's important to recognize that although we all feel empathy and sadness at the loss of someone young and talented and inspirational and lovely, that we have to be cautious not to make that story your story. It's very easy to do. Very easy. I mean, it happened not that long ago with Olivia Newton-John. And anytime I think we see a celebrity death from breast cancer, and we're someone who's had a diagnosis of breast cancer, our brains very naturally go there and say, oh my God, what if that's me? What if I'm next? And so in those times, it's important, again, I think that mental break, that step back, that moment to take a breath and to remind yourself that your story is your own. That even though it's easy to relate to someone else's stories, and sometimes we feel like we know people because they're celebrities. Maybe you listened to Shannon Doherty's podcast. Maybe, I know she had a lot of followers. Maybe you followed her on social media. And so you felt like you knew this person. But we don't really know people. And we don't know all the ins and outs of what's happening. And we don't know everything they're doing and what they're exposed to and what they're facing. And so, again, we have to be really careful not to weave our story into someone else's story. We have to be careful to stay in our own lane and recognize that we have a lot of power over our body, over our health, not complete power, right? We're not magical. Maybe we can't fix everything. If we did, we would be able to clearly state there's a cure. And no one can say that, right? No one can say there's a cure. Not on the naturopathic side of the world, not on the standard of care side of the world. Nobody's going to step forward and say, here's a cure. Wherever we go, they're like, let's try this, let's try that, let's tweak this, let's try that. And so that's where our power lies, right? In listening to our body and committing to the practices that are valuable for us, that are often challenging for us, the behavior changes that we can make, but stepping into the power we have over ourselves is critical. And I think that taking some space and reminding yourself that you do have power and that you do have your own story is very, very important, because our mental health, our emotional health, the amount of stress we create for ourselves is huge when it comes to the impact it can have on our health. So in times like this week, where there's a lot going on, where there are a lot of stressors and there are a lot of ideas and there are a lot of beliefs and there are just a lot of mean things that people say, and not just this week, but a lot, right, in this world. And especially when it comes to social media, we can just get so drawn into this. And then we start developing these ideas of, I hear this all the time. I hear people, oh, people suck. Oh, people are this and people are that. And we have to recognize that that impacts our health. Negativity, negative thoughts, negative emotions, trauma, sadness, all of this affects our health just as much as the food we put in our body. We talk about reducing the toxic burden on people, on ourselves, on our bodies. And when we think that way, we have toxic thoughts, toxic emotions that impact us. So, what does it mean to take a mental health break? And how do you know that you need it? And what does it take to give yourself permission to take it? So when I was growing up as a young adult in the corporate world, right, in the work world, that was in the late 1970s throughout the 1980s, and you just showed up no matter what, right? You got your butt to work. If you wanted to promote, if you wanted to grow, if you wanted to climb the ladder, you showed up. You did overnighters, you did overtime, you didn't ask for compensation. I'm not saying this is right. I'm just saying this is the world, the work world I grew up in. You did overnighters, you stepped up, anyone wanted you for extra, you stayed late, you came in early, you came in sick, you came in with a fever, like you came in on your deathbed. I mean, it was crazy when I look back and I think about the situations and the physical situations that I and people I worked with came into work under these circumstances. And I think that was madness. But also, I remember when this term started to come into the work world, this term of mental health day. I'm taking a mental health break, or I need a mental health day. And I remember when I first started hearing that, just thinking, what in the world are you talking about? It was so foreign to me, right? I was conditioned that a good work ethic means work comes first, always. That's the way my dad taught me. That's the way I was raised. And that's what I believed, that it was always whatever you had to do to show up for work. Then, thank God, as I got smarter and older, and I started to realize, like, okay, this mental health thing, that's important. And today, I will tell you that mental health days, mental health breaks, mental health awareness is equally as important as anything to do with physical health. And we have to realize all the things that impact our mental health. And we have to be careful because when we go to thinking mental health, I think we gravitate towards the idea of diagnosed diseases, and of course that's mental health. But that's I'm not even talking to that extreme. I think we get used to toxic mental health states, unhealthy mental health states, and we think that they're normal. Like we just have to push through them, and this is just the way that it is. And I would offer that that's just not true. That there are times when we have to realize things are too much and we have to stop. I got a text message earlier today from my daughter, and she had a little laughing emoji next to it, and she says, I need a Xanax. I mean, funny, but is it? Is it funny when you notice that you're under so much stress and you're feeling so stressed? And then we just think this is something we have to deal with in the world of work or even just in our personal lives. Now, of course, I'm going to acknowledge that there are times when there's a lot going on and we do have to get through it, right? We do. But even then, when we have to like really dig down and get through something, maybe on the other end of that, we say, now I need a break. Now I need to assess. Now I need to process. Now I need a moment. And it is important for our brain, the organ of our brain, it is important for it to tune out. This is why being in nature is so important. This is why getting outside every day is a practice you must incorporate in your life. You've got to get outside every day. Even if it's super hot right now, get up earlier, go out in the morning, stay up a little later, go out in the evening when the sun goes down. But get outside. Get some fresh air. Get your feet on the ground. It is so important to give our brain that break. And it's also important to recognize when we've got to turn off the TV, when we've got to either get away from the social media or be intentional about the boundaries with social media. Be intentional about the fact that you're not going to read the comments because there's nothing good in them. Or you're not going to look at I unfollow accounts all the time. And sometimes I just wonder how certain accounts has even got in my thread. I'm like, what is this? Where did this come from? Unfollow. I block people. I unfollow people. I get a negative comment. I don't even bother to respond. Unfollow. I'm done. I don't want that in my life. And I get to choose my boundaries and what I allow in to my mind. And even things like what we expose our minds to. Growing up, I always loved psychological thrillers, horror movies, things like that. And throughout my life, I'd have people say, like, why would you put something like that in your mind? And for a long time, it didn't make sense to me. But especially over the last several years, I certainly do notice that when there's a lot around, a lot of stressors that I'm trying to manage, maybe even just something really positive that I'm trying to create, because positive things can be stressors also, right? They're challenges, but they have positive outcomes. So whether it's things you're dealing with that are negative, or whether it's things you're trying to create that are positive, but create many things that you have to deal with and can create stressors for you, it's important to recognize those things and to recognize that emotional energy is real. And it takes emotional energy to manage these things, to deal with these things, to create things, to draw boundaries, to uphold boundaries. It takes mental energy and it can be exhausting. So, what we allow ourselves to see and what information we allow into our brain can have a big impact on that. So when we're noticing that it's taking all you have, all the mental energy you have to manage whatever it is you're managing, it's really important to consider what you're putting in your brain. Are you putting in something that creates more inspiration, more motivation, more positive energy? Or are you putting in things that drag you down even more? Right? I'll give you an example. In our book club, I'm in a book club, and every month we choose a different book. And the book this month has just been really tough for me to get into. It's kind of magic, it's kind of mystery, it's kind of whodunit, and it's kind of dark. And it opens up really dark. And I think that was the thing that set me off. When the opening of the book, it was kind of gross, kind of gory. And I just noticed that I just didn't want that. I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear the descriptions of it. It just didn't sit well with me. And I gravitated more back towards these books that I'm reading that I love by Ellen. It's Elin. I think it's Ellen Hildebrand, which are all of these, they're whodunits, but they're lighthearted and they're beach books and they're written on Nantucket Island or about Nantucket Island. And they just are lighter and more fun to read. And they make me want to go to Nantucket Island. And so I've noticed that I don't want this darker, heavier theme in my brain right now, because there's too many other things with that energy going on around me. When I'm at home, my husband, at the end of the day, he likes to sit down and turn on the news or turn on these YouTube podcasts or shows or interview things that he watches. And in our home, the common space is all kind of one big area of a kitchen, living room, dining room all together. So when he's got the TV on and I'm preparing food, I can hear it. And so I just have to put my AirPods in and say, I can't take it. I can't hear 100,001 descriptions of the same negative thing over and over and over again. Like, I've got all the info I need. I'm up to date on current events. And now I'm choosing to turn it off because it feels too heavy. And I'm very sensitive to that emotion now, with my focus being on supporting my body's ability to heal. When I feel that heaviness, mentally, emotionally, physically, I know that my body's experiencing stress, right? Your body sends these signals, and the feeling of mental or physical heaviness, lethargy, right? The kind of this, what is it? Just lack of motivation to move through something, get up, go do something. If you notice those kinds of energies, realize that that is impacting you. And now you have choices that you're going to have to make to move past it. I was at Bunko last night. If you're familiar with Bunko, it's a dice game with 12 women, and we've been playing it, my Bunko group, for 25 years, maybe more. And there was just a common thought last night that people expressed, which was just like, we need some more kindness, right? There's too much meanness going on right now. There's too many mean things being said. And I think back and a lot lately, and I reflect on when I was growing up, and there was a rule: if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, right? And I think maybe we should start incorporating that rule a little more. And maybe we should figure out how to say things. I'm not saying don't express ourselves, but can we express ourselves in constructive ways? And I wanted to address this on today's show because I see this weighing heavily on a lot of people. And if you're in this community, if you're in this breast cancer population, we've maybe you're just diagnosed, maybe you're going through treatment, maybe you're just out of treatment and all the trauma of treatment is starting to hit you. Maybe you're years out, but you're still processing this underlying fear of getting cancer. You're trying to get your life on the right path to make it healthy and support yourself, but you're facing challenges. All these are stressors. And I just cannot overemphasize the importance of mental health breaks and mental health care and awareness for you. The other day, in the middle of the afternoon, I had quite a lot to do, and I just looked at the calendar and I knew I need to stop. I need a break. I could feel I'm pushing a lot. My calendar's been very busy. I'm leaving on a big, amazing trip in 3 weeks. So I'm trying to get a lot done ahead of time. And I've had a lot of clients book. And I just, I had about an hour and a half. And also, what I noticed was because I literally live by my calendar, everything goes in my calendar. And this weekend and on 2 days ago, I missed two important events. I put them on the wrong day. Like I screwed up my calendar, which is very unlike me. And I just had to say, okay, there's too much going on in my mind right now. I need a break. I'm leashing up the dogs and I'm walking over to the beach and I'm going to be out in the sun. I'm not bringing a phone. I'm not wearing AirPods. I'm not listening to anything. I just need my brain to check out, to give it some space, to take in some fresh air and just to be in the moment. So I just think this is so important to know right now when there's a lot going on around you, a lot going on in the world. And if you're sensing lots of negative, heavy energy, that you get to decide to be kinder to yourself. And I think that when we're kinder to ourselves, this is another thing that I see. A lot of people will be like, I got to push through. I got to push through. And when we push through, we wear ourselves down. Think about the language we use. I'm worn out. I'm threadbare. I don't have anything left. I'm empty. I'm out of gas. Think about the ways you refer to the way you feel, the terminology that you use, and give that some weight. Think about refilling yourself because we think we have to push through things. And when we do that and we're at the end of our rope, right? Another term that's used frequently, we don't show up well. We don't show up well for ourselves. That's when we start turning to look for the nearest candy bowl or some sugary thing that we call a treat. And we tell ourselves we need a treat, or maybe putting more alcohol into our system because we want to numb this feeling of being overwhelmed and feeling stressed. But there's a much simpler, healthier solution, and that's actually stop. Stop and take care of yourself. Take something off the calendar. Call and cancel an appointment. Push it out for 2 weeks. Is it really going to be the end of the world if you move some things around when you notice you need a break? So, my friends, this show, that's really the only message I want to give you. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself with kindness. Give yourself space. Give yourself what you need and notice what you need. And don't judge it and don't condemn it and don't say it shouldn't be and don't think I should get through it, right? Notice what actually is happening. Notice where you're actually at and what you have the ability or where you have the ability to carve out 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe a whole day, maybe a weekend, maybe a week. I have a friend right now, and she's with her family on this annual vacation. They take to this incredibly beautiful spot in Oregon. And I've just been watching her post pictures of, walking through the farmers markets and just hanging out in the forest with her kids and the beach with her husband. And these things are so critically important for us to do. All right. So this podcast comes out. It's July. It's summertime. The sun is out. It's hot. Kids are out of school. Grandkids are out of school. Maybe it's time to support your health by connecting to yourself and just people that you love and just spending time enjoying each other, spending time enjoying yourself and noticing where you have created boundaries as to the input that you will allow in your brain and how it may be affecting the level of stress that you're experiencing now, the quality of sleep that you're getting because of your mind racing, and the quality of your relationships when you don't take time to take good care of yourself and you feel like you're at the end of your rope. All right, friends. In the month of August, so starting in, I don't know, what is it, a week, 2 weeks, that whole month is going to be focused on radical self-care in the Better Than Before Breast Cancer membership, because I think we need it. I think everybody needs it right now. I think we need to dive into being super intentional about caring with kindness for ourselves and the world and the people around us. So if this sounds good to you and you want every day, and you know what motivated this is I am leaving for like the trip of a lifetime, this dream that I have manifested, and it is all about self-care. And it is prioritizing self-care to the highest degree I ever have in my life. I'm going to be heading to the Maldives, where I'll spend 8 days with Nasha Winters, Dr. Nasha Winters, and her team from the Metabolic Terrain Institute of Health, learning about healing, focusing on healing, working with doctors and advocates, and learning more and understanding more about supporting my body's ability to heal. And, it's been quite a ride and quite a story. And I'm so excited and I'm so proud of myself for making a commitment to decide that this was important enough to do anything I had to do to make it happen. And that's why I thought, you know what? That's how I feel about self care right now for my people and my members, and that we really need to be intentional and very, very focused on it and be kind and loving to ourselves. So, in the month of August, even while I'm gone, every single day, there's going to be just a tiny little step. Something to prompt people, something to engage people, something to connect to the community with themselves and with their lives and with each other, to support this mental health break and intentional loving kindness. So, if you're interested, that sounds good. Go to my website, thebreastcancerrecoverycoach.com, click on coaching and programs, and join the Better Than Before Breast Cancer membership, where you get lots of support, lots of insight, and tons of tools and information to help you create a life that really and truly is better than before breast cancer. All right, friends, I hope someone needed to hear that as much as I feel like I needed to hear it and needed to say it. And I hope you take good care of yourself. I'll talk to you soon.